LoveLore Library. Chapter 77. Su Denheng kneels at Suingxue. Chapter 77. Su Denheng kneels at Suingxue. The Empress had also suffered a great loss this time and would be punished. If she could not find Suingxue to vent her anger, she would not let her off. Just as she was about to leave the palace, Lu Fu's sharp voice rang out, "Miss Su, it's still early. There's no need to rush out of the palace." Su Yuris' delicate body trembled, her eyes filled with fear. At the Marquis Manor, Su Dingheng heard that Chu Mingyuan had issued an edict, so he quickly changed his clothes and went to greet him at the gate. Seeing the carriages from the palace approaching, he was trembling, thinking that it might be because Suingxue had caused a major problem in the palace and the emperor was coming to reprimand her. But when he saw Chief Imperial Guard Lan Ling standing in front of the carriage, he became puzzled. Lan Ling was personally escorting them. Could it be that the emperor or empress had come to the Marquis Manor? This would be a huge trouble. Su Dingheng was well versed in the ways of a civil official. The moment the carriage came to a stop, he immediately knelt and shouted, "This humble subject is guilty. Please forgive me, Emperor and Your Majesty. My daughter has caused trouble. It is all this humble subject's failure to properly educate her. Please forgive me, Emperor." A palace guard standing beside Lan Ling couldn't help but burst out laughing. Lan Ling looked at Su Dingheng in confusion and said, "Marquis, there's no need for you to do this. The one who has come is not the Emperor." "Not the Emperor?" Su Dingheng was perplexed. Then who else could be riding in the royal carriage? There was also another carriage behind, filled with valuable-looking items. Chu Yihan poked his head out of the carriage and said, "Marquis Su, do you only show respect to the Emperor and not to me?" Chu Yihan's words made Su Dingheng's legs go weak again, and he knelt heavily. "Greetings, Your Highness. Please forgive me, Your Highness." Su Dingheng's whole body was shaking. How could he have forgotten about this troublesome person? It was like encountering a ghost. Laughter suddenly came from the carriage, and Su Dingheng found it somewhat familiar. Chu Yihan got off the carriage first and reached out to help Suingxue. Suingxue playfully jumped down, and Chu Yihan held her waist tightly to prevent her from falling. At that moment, Su Dingheng's expression was complex as he said, You unfilial daughter. How could she willingly accept his kneeling in the carriage? She was defying the heavens. "Father, you don't need to pay such respects to me. Please get up." Suingxue kindly reminded him not to be angry and to stop kneeling to her. Feeling a little embarrassed, Su Dingheng quickly stood up, his face showing both anger and chaos. But before long, Lan Ling conveyed the emperor's edict, stating that Suingxue had made significant contributions to save Consort Xiang. The items in the carriage were all rewards for her, and the emperor also mentioned that he would personally inscribe a plaque for the Tongchang Medical Center in the future, allowing Suingxue to manage it properly. Lan Ling also added, as she deduced Chu Mingyuan's intention, the emperor distinguishes between seniority and values legitimacy. "Marquis, please understand the emperor's intentions." Su Dingheng nodded repeatedly, saying, I understand. I will treat Ingxue well. She is the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor, and everyone in the residence respects her." Lan Ling nodded in response, saying, "That's good." With his task completed, it was time for Lan Ling to return to the palace and report. He glanced at Chu Yihan from the corner of his eye. It seemed that he didn't intend to leave with him. However, this was not a matter for a chief imperial guard to be concerned about. After Lan Ling left, Su Dingheng looked at the carriage filled with rewards, his eyes shining brightly. He quickly ordered people to move them into the Marquis Manor and had no time to pay attention to Suingxue and Chu Yihan. Suingxue didn't know when Chu Yihan had taken her hand again. She struggled silently and whispered, "Thank you for defending me today, Your Highness." It has caused you trouble to argue with the emperor. Chapter 78, This king is here, you can be at ease. Chapter 78, This king is here, you can be at ease. Su Yingxue, I saved you, not so that you could be courteous with me. Chu Yihan's face turned cold, and his tone was displeased. In front of so many people, should I not be courteous to your highness? Su Yingxue pulled at the corner of her mouth helplessly. Chu Yihan seemed unconcerned, but for the sake of her reputation as a young lady, he lowered his voice and said, You slept with me, so there's no need to be polite to me. Your highness. Su Yingxue quickly covered his mouth and warned him with her eyes. Be careful with your words, your highness. It was he who had forced her. She never intended to sleep with him. Chu Yihan's eyes gleamed with a wicked smile. He didn't care about the process, only the result. And the result was that they had slept together on the same bed. He noticed that Su Yingxue had something on her mind, so he gently pinched her hand and asked, Do you suspect that your mother's death is related to Imperial Brother? Su Yingxue shook her head. The emperor seemed familiar with my mother, but he refused to tell me anything. Why was Princess Xu Li granted the title of princess? Do you know? Chu Yihan's fingers caressed the back of her hand. Su Yingxue tried hard to recall. In her previous life, she had never paid much attention to her mother, and she knew very little about her. She only knew that her mother had no relatives in the capital, but her status was noble and she was respected by many people. Chu Yihan explained, Princess Xu Li once saved my father, and my father bestowed her with the title of princess. At that time, my father intended to marry her to Imperial Brother, but Princess Xu Li refused to be a concubine and chose to marry your father instead. Su Yingxue's heart felt a chill. Her mother was a woman of such integrity, but she must have been deceived by her father, who had the face of a scumbag civil servant. She nodded and said, Thank you, Your Highness. Su Dingheng had finished moving the belongings and had been watching them for a long time. Finally, Chu Yihan reluctantly let go of Su Yingxue's hand. Before leaving, he whispered gently in her ear, Su Yingxue, he'll be there for you at any time. Whenever she needed him. Su Yingxue felt a warm embrace in her heart, melting away the coldness she had experienced in the treacherous palace. Yingxue, you have worked hard in saving Consort Xiang. Today, Daddy has prepared a feast for you to replenish your energy. For the first time, Su Dingheng showed a kind expression and was exceptionally considerate. After they entered the residence, he immediately ordered the dishes Su Yingxue loved, such as abalone, ginseng, shark fin, deer antler, and bird's nest. He brought out all the good things he had. Su Yingxue rarely had a meal with him, and she even had an extra bowl of rice. After seeing that she had finished eating, Su Dingheng put down his chopsticks and asked cautiously, Yingxue, now that both you and Ruer have returned from the palace, there's no reason for her to stay there. Besides saving Consort Xiang, did anything else happen in the palace? If there's any trouble, you must tell Daddy, and I will support you. Su Yingxue almost believed him. You will support me. If I say that I have angered the Empress, what? Are you crazy? How dare you provoke the Empress? Su Yingxue, you unfilial daughter. If you want to die, don't drag the Marquis Manor into it. Su Dingheng erupted in anger and cursed Su Yingxue with a string of insults. After he calmed down, he questioned her, was your sister detained in the palace because of this? Su Yingxue, how could you be so heartless? Ruer is your biological sister, yet you didn't help her. Chapter 79, Eating Su Yingxue's Remains, Cough. Su Yingxue took a sip of tea and choked lightly. She cleared her throat and calmly faced Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng looked at her composed demeanor and was about to say something to manipulate her. But before he could speak, Su Yingxue calmly said, Father, don't you have any idea why Su Yuro is still in the palace and unable to leave? Do you know why she knows Consort Xiang and why she became the Empress accomplice in framing me and the medical center? Su Dingheng's guilty conscience caused him to lower his head, and his left hand trembled uncontrollably. How did you know? Where did you hear all this? These are baseless accusations against me and your sister. Accusations? It seems that father no longer cares about my sister's safety. You even want to abandon all the businesses you hold. Su Yingxue lifted her teacup and let out a cold laugh. A trace of killing intent flashed in her once beautiful eyes. Su Dingheng panicked. You. What do you want? Your sister is a delicate woman. How can she withstand the torment in the palace? I will go and save her right away. You must not make things difficult for her anymore. Su Dingheng said this and paced back and forth in the hall twice. Su Yingxue, who was observing the scene, sarcastically remarked, "Why isn't father going? If you wait any longer, the palace gates will be locked." Su Dingheng felt both ashamed and annoyed. He resented that Su Yingxue had seen through his cowardice and pretense, yet he had no choice but to turn back and plead with her, "You are Su Yure's sister after all. Why don't you bring her back and save her? If I save her, will father save me?" Su Yingxue's smile turned mocking. If it were Su Yuro who returned now and Su Yingxue trapped in the palace, would father care about my life or death? I definitely would care. Su Dingheng stubbornly clung to his pride. Very well. Then I will stay here with father today and see if Su Yuro will return. If she dies in the palace, I will personally take care of her and give her a grand funeral. Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow, her eyes sparkling like radiant pearls. Su Dingheng was nearly blinded by her brilliance. In the end, he didn't dare to cause a scene by entering the palace, so he could only wait in the Marquis manor. As night fell, Su Yuro finally returned. He anxiously looked at Su Yuro being helped in. "Ruer, are you all right? Father was so worried about you." Father, once she was back by Su Dingheng's side, Su Yuro couldn't hold back her tears any longer. She poured out all her grievances, unwillingness, breakdown, and weakness in front of Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng's heart trembled with her cries. Su Yingxue watched the scene unfold, and even with a touch of kindness, she reminded, "Sister must be hungry. You should eat something to regain your strength before continuing to cry." Su Yuro glared at Su Yingxue with bitterness in her eyes. If it weren't for her, would she have been trapped by the Empress? Would she have endured the invisible but soul-crushing torment in the palace? However, her stomach betrayed her as it kept growling. She looked over at the sumptuous dishes on the table, feeling their alluring appeal. She could not help but scoop a bowl of soup and drink it. She hadn't eaten for a day in the palace, so everything tasted heavenly to her. But it was only after she finished a bowl that she realized, why is the food cold? When Su Dingheng saw her take the first bite, he wanted to tell her that this was the leftovers from his and Su Yingxue's meal. He wanted to make some new dishes for her. However, seeing how hungry she was, he could not bear to interrupt her. Chapter 80. Saving Wu Jinyan. Afraid that her self-esteem would be hurt, Su Dingheng tried to coax her in a roundabout way. "Ruer, I will have the kitchen prepare another pot of bird's nest soup and some hot dishes for you. Take a seat and have a little more to eat later." "Father. Are these dishes leftovers from your meal?" Su Yuro finally realized that the table full of delicious food had already been touched by chopsticks. Su Yingxue appeared satisfied, and she had actually picked up Su Yingxue's leftovers and eaten them so eagerly. Su Yuro threw the bowl and chopsticks aside, glaring at Su Yingxue with reddened eyes. "You! How dare you treat me like this? You make me eat your leftover scraps." Su Yingxuk replied earnestly, when did I mistreat you? Did I force you to eat? It was your ravenousness. Are you blaming me? Have you forgotten the lesson the emperor gave you today? You were born from a concubine, while I am the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor. There is a distinction between high and low, legitimacy and illegitimacy. Letting you cap my leftovers was an opportunity for you to serve me. And yet, you dare to accuse me. Su Yuro was both angry and afraid, trembling all over and unable to speak. How could she forget the emperor's lesson today? But she was unwilling. She had also lived a life of luxury for many years and was Su Ding's daughter. Why should she be humiliated and trampled upon by Su Yingxue? Her anger overwhelmed her, and before she could catch her breath, she fainted. After just finishing the leftover meal, she even vomited all over Su Dingheng. Su Dingheng quickly called for help and had her taken care of in the courtyard. Su Dingheng followed along. Before leaving, he cast a disdainful glance at Su Yingxue. Su Yingxuk touched her chest. It still felt sore and painful. In the end, there was no father-daughter bond between them. She went back to the courtyard and rested for a while. The next day, she woke up early and went to the clinic. Due to Chu Minjuan's instructions, her identity was quickly exposed. She no longer wore a hood to conceal herself and began practicing openly at the clinic. Her consultation fees were not cheap, but there were many wealthy families coming to seek her treatment. She didn't even have time to take a sip of water in the morning. When she finally got some rest, she planned to talk to Wu Jinyan and ask her if she was in trouble at home. However, she couldn't find Wu Jinyan at the medicine cabinet. When she asked Manager Qi, he said, Miss Wu hasn't been here since that day. Something must have happened at home. A hint of urgency flashed across Su Yingxu's face. Why are you telling me now? How many days has it been since we last heard from her? Ah, miss, you were troubled before, so how could I bother you? Miss Wu hasn't come for a few days, and she would have sent someone to deliver things to Fufeng Center. However, when I went to Fufeng Center yesterday to find her, I discovered that she hadn't sent anything there for the past 2 days. The elderly and children there are extremely worried about her. Manager Qi sighed with difficulty. He was also concerned about Wu Jinyan, but he was only responsible for managing the medical clinic. A place like the minister's estate was beyond his abilities. Su Yingxuk furrowed her brows and hurriedly went to the Minister of Personnel's estate. When she stood at the door, she hesitated. How should she enter? If she entered through the main entrance and alarmed the entire minister's estate, it might worsen Wu Jinyan's situation. Zi Wei appeared behind her, seemingly out of nowhere. She is being held in the backyard. Su Yingxue turned around abruptly, her eyes shining. With Zi Wei's guidance, she easily jumped over the wall and made her way to the place where Wu Jinyan was being held. She pushed open the dilapidated window and glanced inside, seeing Wu Jinyan hanging from the ceiling beam. A surge of killing intent suddenly filled her eyes. Bang! She broke through the window and immediately released Wu Jinyan. Catching her body, Su Yingxue noticed that in just a few short days, she had become so thin that she was only left with a body of bones. Chapter 81, Fight. Save me. Wu Jinyan couldn't open her eyes, but when she felt herself being put down, she didn't forget to call for help. She could not die. She did not want to die yet. Sister Jinyan, don't worry. I'll save you. Su Yingxue took out a life-saving pill and fed it to her. Then, she carried her on her back and wanted to bring her out. Before she could take 2 steps, Zi Wei blocked her way and said coldly, "There's someone." Su Yingxue stopped in her tracks. She heard someone walking in the courtyard as the person said, I wonder if this bitch is dead or not. She had been hanging for 3 to 4 days, and she still had the strength to call for help. Wu Ruofei got angry just thinking about it. Wu Jinyan was lowly, but she was like wild grass on the mountain. She had a tenacious vitality. No matter how Wu Ruofei's beat, scolded or bullied her since she was young, she never thought of dying. Recently, she had heard from a close friend who had beaten her stepsister to death that she could kill the stepsister she disliked by torturing her, so she did as she was told. However, she did not expect that Wu Jinyan was still breathing when she came to the courtyard last night. She wrung her handkerchief in anger and disgust with Feng He, the maid beside her. Why don't you go get a knife and they'll poke a few holes in her body, let some blood out and then hang her up, so maybe she'll be dead in a day. Feng He smiled in agreement. All right, I will accompany Miss to see if she's dead. If she's not dead, I will immediately go and get a knife. Creak. The old wooden door was pushed open. Wu Ruofei was shocked when she saw Su Yingshu's red eyes. After she reacted, she pointed at Su Yingxue angrily. Su Yingxue, why did you barge into my house? You even put her down. You're courting death. Su Yingxue kicked Wu Ruofei and let her fall. Anger surged in her heart. Wu Ruofei, she's your biological sister. She would never bully you, but you treat her like this. When Su Yingxue heard what Wu Ruofei said just now, she realized that Wu Ruofei did not treat Wu Jinyan as a person at all. It was as if she was an animal that could be slaughtered by her. Wu Ruofei was in so much pain that she cried on the ground. Su Yingxue, you barged into my house and kicked me. Men, catch her. Beat her up too. She had been spoiled since she was young and did not have a proper sense of right and wrong. Only what she wanted to do was right. At this moment, when she thought of the embarrassment Su Yingxue had given her previously, she became even angrier. Unfortunately, none of the servants in the minister's estate were a match for Ziwei. Ziwei's sword had yet to be unsheathed, but he had already broken their arms and legs, causing them to lie on the ground and wail in pain. Ziwei's murderous aura approached Wu Ruofei. Wu Ruofei widened her eyes in fear. Don't come near me. I'm the precious daughter of my parents. If you dare to hit me, my father won't let you off. Su Yingxue carried Wu Jinyan on her back and sneered. Ziwei, beat her. Yes. Ziwei's scabbard slammed into Wu Ruofei's body without mercy, breaking her limbs. Wu Ruofei lay on the ground, crying loudly. It hurts. I'm going to die. Mother, save me. Su Yingxue brought Wu Jinyan back to the clinic and examined her body carefully. She found that she had many injuries, big and small. She was beaten with a stick and had been hungry for a long time. Now, she was still unconscious. Su Yingxue could only feed her some ginseng soup to maintain her body. Basins of blood were carried out. Even Manager Qi could not stand it anymore and said, "This is too much. Why was this young girl's mind so crooked? How can she torture Jinyan like this?" Chapter 82. The minister is here. When Su Yingxue asked Manager Qi to enter the room to take care of Wu Jinyan, he saw Wu Jinyan's pale face and sighed repeatedly. However, he thought about how Su Yingxue had barged into the minister's estate and even injured the minister's daughter. She was probably going to cause trouble again. Miss, you broke the arms and legs of the minister's daughter. What if the minister comes looking for trouble? He said worriedly. Su Yingxue wiped the blood off her hands, her expression cold. He will come, and I'm waiting for him to arrive. Miss, something bad happened. The minister is here. Xilan ran up, panting. The corners of Su Yingxu's mouth curled up slightly as she gestured to Ziwei. Let's go downstairs. Ziwei obediently followed behind her. Manager Qi and the others in the clinic had never dared to speak to Ziwei. His aura was too intimidating. However, seeing him following behind Su Yingxue like a well-behaved puppet, Manager Qi couldn't help but sigh. Our miss is truly formidable. In the main hall of the clinic, a middle-aged man was surrounded by over 20 guards. He was dressed in court attire and had a solemn expression. Su Yingxue descended the stairs slowly and spoke in a calm tone. Who dares to hinder my clinic from conducting business? Do you understand the consequences of delaying a patient's treatment? How dare you? Su Yingxue, don't you recognize me? Wu Hongtao angrily swung his sleeves. His face displayed an air of righteousness. However, Su Yingxue didn't take him seriously. She knew that beneath Wu Hongtao's solemn appearance was a corrupt individual. In her previous life, before she died, Wu Hongtao had been exposed to corruption, and his entire family had been arrested and exiled. Not receiving a response from Su Yingxue, Wu Hongtao thought she was afraid, so he berated her even louder. You, as the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor, have come out in public to conduct business and even brought along my daughter. The two of you have disgraced our elders. And now, you have audaciously entered my residence, causing harm, murder, and even the death of my daughter. I will not let you get away with it. Wu Hongtao, in his position as an official in charge of reviewing others' performance, was skilled at using his words to defame others. The onlookers around the clinic were all taken aback by his words. That can't be true. Miss Su is the owner of the clinic, which is known for treating and saving people. She wouldn't do such things. That's right. I heard that Miss Su is a genius doctor who even cured the seriously ill Consort Xiang. But can the minister lie and falsely accuse others? He said his daughter has died. When the minister says his daughter has died, which daughter is he referring to? Is it the eldest daughter who received preferential treatment, or the other miss who was tortured almost to death by the eldest young miss? Su Yingxue smiled mischievously. Wu Hongtao snorted coldly. What does my daughter have to do with you, Su Yingxue? You intruded into my residence, and injured my daughter. I will punish you. Sure, but I will report your crimes to Lord Liang Jin. Su Yingxue said firmly. What crime have I committed? Su Yingxue, don't spout nonsense. You're guilty of slandering a third-grade official. Even if your grandfather, old General Su, returns from the battlefield, he can't protect you. Wu Hongtao was so angry that his face turned red. He could not help but feel a little guilty. Su Yingxue flicked her hand and splashed a cup of tea onto his face. You're not worthy of mentioning my grandfather. You. How dare you? How dare you? Men, seize her and take her to the capital prefecture. Chapter 83. My whole body hurts. Wu Hongtao was so furious that he stomped his feet and quickly commanded the guards. They rushed forward, but they couldn't even react to a single move from Ziwei. Wu Hongtao didn't even have a chance to see what happened. The group of guards he brought with him all ended up lying in a jumble inside the clinic, groaning in varying degrees of pain. After Ziwei finished beating them, he stood back behind Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue was holding a teacup, taking a sip, and said, Lord Wu, are you still going to fight? Wu Hongtao's face turned from pale to red. You, how could there be such a capable person by her side? His martial arts skills were incredibly strong, and it was terrifying. Wu Hongtao kicked the people around him a few times and shouted, Are you all useless? Quickly! Follow me to leave. Lord Wu, do you think you can leave just because you can't win? Did I allow it? Su Yingxue crossed her arms and calmly looked at him. Wu Hongtao panicked and said in a composed manner, Su Yingxue, I hold the position of a third-grade official in the court. If you dare to lay a hand on me, I will, bang. Wu Hongtao was kicked. I, Su Yingxue, don't care about someone's rank when I beat them up. Su Yingxue tilted her head, and her previously beautiful face emitted a chilling aura due to her furrowed brows. Wu Hongtao was dumbfounded. How could he have expected Su Yingxue to be so arrogant? Even before he could run out of the clinic, Su Yingxue grabbed him by the back of his collar and gave him another beating. Wu Hongtao quickly pushed aside the commoners and managed to escape from Su Yingxue's clutches. Of course, it was only because Su Yingxue had finished beating him up that he had the opportunity to escape. When Ziwei saw Su Yingxue clapping her hands and returning, a hint of gloominess flashed in his eyes. Why? Su Yingxue took a sip of water and paused for a moment. What do you mean, why? You won't let me take action. Ziwei's eyes darkened, and his gaze became unfathomable. It seemed like he thought she was rejecting him. Su Yingxue shook her head. Although he's despicable, he's still an official. We can't kill him, so there's no need for you to take action. Don't waste your martial arts on someone like him. She patted Ziwei's shoulder, unaware of the change in his expression. Ziwei's hand covered the spot where Su Yingxue had patted him and lingered there for a while. This was her warmth. She also said not to waste his martial arts. This was her appreciation. A faint glimmer appeared at the corners of Ziwei's eyes, emitting a beautiful cold light. After Su Yingxue finished beating Wu Hongtao, she went upstairs to give Wu Jinyan an acupuncture treatment and administered a bowl of medicine. After sleeping for the entire afternoon, Wu Jinyan began to show signs of waking up. Manager Qi occasionally came to check on her and was amazed. Miss medical skills are truly extraordinary. Miss Wu, who was so severely injured, woke up after just one day of sleep. His eyes were filled with admiration for Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue waved her hand. I'll have a conversation with Sister Jinyan for a while. Manager Qi, I have a favor to ask of you. Please write a detailed medical report on Sister Jinyan's condition. Although Manager Qi didn't understand why Su Yingxue needed it, he immediately went downstairs to write the report. When Wu Jinyan woke up, she could only feel pain. Her heart ached. Her wounds hurt. Her muscles and bones hurt. Every part of her body was in pain. She had always been strong, but when she opened her eyes and saw Su Yingxue, 2 tears rolled down her cheeks. Yingxue, you saved me. Yes, I saved you, so Sister Jinyan, you can't be too sad. You need to recover quickly. Su Yingxue held her hand and comforted her gently. She knew that the pain throughout Wu Jinyan's body probably couldn't compare to her extreme heartache. Chapter 84. Beat your father up. Even though they were both daughters, Wu Ruofei was showered with affection and treated as the apple of her father's eye, but she nearly died at Wu Ruofei's hands. What kind of heart-wrenching pain could be more cruel than this? Su Yingxue couldn't help but think of her previous life. She understood Wu Jinyan's pain very well. After allowing her tears to flow for a while, Wu Jinyan rationally asked Su Yingxue, by barging into the estate to save me, you must have attracted attention. Did I cause you any trouble? Su Yingxue held her chin and thought about it seriously. Is it troublesome to beat up your father? She intentionally teased Wu Jinyan, but Wu Jinyan's heart skipped a beat. What? You beat up my father. What? Sister Jinyan blames me for, no. I'm worried about you. He's a high-ranking official in the court. It's a serious offense to harm an official. How could you? How can you go to such lengths for me? If it implicates you and affects your well-being, how can I find peace in my heart? Wu Jinyan anxiously shed tears. Su Yingxue wiped the corners of her eyes. Sister, as long as you don't blame me, that's all that matters. As for whether it's a serious offense or not, since I dared to act, I can assure you that I won't be guilty. Besides, it's your father who should be held accountable. Look at how you've been tortured, and yet he turns a blind eye, allowing Wu Ruofei to torment you. He's the one who failed as a father, and that's a serious crime. Heh, Wu Jinyan let out a mocking laugh. To be a father. He's not worthy. Wu Jinyan rarely talked about family matters, but Su Yingxue could see the resentment in her eyes. It seemed that she had suppressed it for too long and didn't need to bear it any longer. Wu Jinyan knew that now that Su Yingxue had saved her, she probably had no more relationship with the minister's estate. She lay on the bed, her face pale, but her gaze was resolute. Yingxue, I will repay you for saving me. Of course, the cost of saving your life is very expensive. Sister should think about how to repay me in the future. Su Yingxue jokingly eased the tension, hoping that Wu Jinyan wouldn't worry too much. She comforted Wu Jinyan to sleep, instructed Manager Qi to take good care of her, and then prepared to return to the estate with Jilan. Manager Qi wrote down the medical report, a full 3 pages long. Miss, please take a look. Su Yingxue glanced at it and thought to herself that Manager Qi was indeed a meticulous person. She could entrust her future sister-in-law to Manager Qi with peace of mind. As Su Yingxue returned to the estate with Jilan, she spotted old Madame Zhang waiting at the entrance. Now, old Madame Zhang was Su Yingxue's eyes in the estate. If any trouble arose, she would be waiting at the entrance for Su Yingxue's return. Upon entering, Su Yingxue was informed by old Madame Zhang, Miss, 2 officials came today to complain with the master. They are currently in the main hall. The master sent someone to wait at our courtyard entrance to intercept you. Upon hearing this, Su Yingxue changed direction and headed straight to the main hall. She asked, do you recognize the 2 officials? Old Madame Zhang replied, one is Lord Liang, who has previously visited the estate. The other one is an unfamiliar lord. He seems to be injured, limping and covering his face. With a clear understanding, Su Yingxue instructed old Madame Zhang and Jilan to return to the courtyard first while she proceeded to the main hall. The reception hall of the Marquis Manor had 2 redwood pillars supporting the spacious hall. Inside, the decorations were exquisite, and a faint fragrance lingered. There were people seated in the 3 designated positions. When Su Yingxue came in, the atmosphere was very tense. It was as if the air had stopped circulating. Chapter 85. Report to the Marquis residence. Her sudden appearance made Su Dingheng's heart skip a beat. With a face ashen, he pointed at her and cursed, you unfilial daughter, kneel now. Su Yingxue crossed her arms over her chest, her expression cold. I won't kneel. Her cold refusal prompted Wu Hongtao to jeer, Marquis, your upbringing is truly commendable. Even when you ask her, your daughter, to kneel, she dares to openly defy you. It seems like she will trample all over you, her father, in the future. These words struck Su Dingheng's face like a slap. His face turned green and white, and he didn't dare to tell Wu Hongtao that Su Yingxue had already stepped all over him. But the more he was mocked, the more he wanted to vent his anger on Su Yingxue. Unfilial daughter. Since I can no longer control you, you've become more and more reckless. How dare you assault an official of the court? You've committed such a serious crime, and I will never show you any favoritism. Su Yingxue lowered her head and smiled faintly. If I had truly committed such a serious crime, would you, father, show me any favoritism? Since she wanted to sever ties with him in front of Wu Hongtao, why should she give him a face? Su Yingxue, you... Su Dingheng felt a throbbing pain in his chest as if he was about to spit out a mouthful of blood again. All right, Marquis, Lord Liang has come to the Marquis Manor today for official business. Let's discuss your family matters after Lord Liang and Lord Wu leave. Liang Jin spoke up timely to diffuse the tension. He had admired the genius doctor in the past, and now he admired Su Yingxue even more for her remarkable medical skills at such a young age. However, as the capital governor, he had to handle the case impartially. He looked at Su Yingxue sternly. Miss Su, Lord Wu has filed a complaint against you at the capital prefecture, accusing you of assaulting an official of the court. Do you plead guilty? Do you have any defense? Su Yingxue glanced indifferently at the complaint in Liang Jin's hand and said, I plead not guilty. How dare you? Su Yingxue, it was you who injured me. Many people outside the clinic witnessed it. You won't escape the consequences. Wu Hongtao slammed the table and stood up with an indignant expression. He thought that by standing together with Liang Jin, he could intimidate Su Yingxue and make her beg for mercy in front of him. But she remained so arrogant. Truly infuriating. Su Yingxue took out Wu Jinyan's pulse chart from her sleeve and handed it to Liang Jin. Lord Liang, your timing is perfect. I also want to file a complaint against Lord Wu for committing a serious crime. Liang Jin was confused, while Su Dingheng and Wu Hongtao were dumbfounded. Wu Hongtao was confused. In the blink of an eye, he had become the accused. Liang Jin scrutinized the pulse chart, not understanding why Su Yingxue was showing it to him. Su Yingxue continued, Lord Liang, the signature on the chart belongs to Wu Jinyan, Lord Wu's biological daughter. And the serious crime committed by Lord Wu is neglecting his familial duties and allowing his daughter to commit murder, almost killing his flesh and blood. Wu Hongtao's heart skipped a beat. You're making baseless accusations. You're slandering me. If the pulse chart is baseless, then why did Lord Wu come to my clinic today causing a scene? That's because you injured my daughter and disrupted the minister's estate. Why did I hit Wu Ruofei? Because you saved that little bitch Wu Jinyan. As Wu Hongtao spoke, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. He had been led by this wretched girl and inadvertently revealed the truth. Liang Jin's expression changed upon hearing this. Lord Wu, how can you call your daughter a little wench? And it seems that you were aware of this incident. The two young ladies in your residence had a dispute, and Miss Wu Jinyan's injuries are indeed real. Chapter 86, A Serious Crime, This. How can this be true? How could a conflict between two daughters result in such injuries? Ruofei is a bit hot-tempered, but she wouldn't have inflicted such severe harm. It was this Su Yingxue who attacked my daughter without any reason, so I went to confront her on Ruofei's behalf. But then Su Yingxue, and she even attacked me. Lord Liang, you have to help me with this matter. Wu Hongtao pretended to be a victim along with Wu Ruofei. Liang Jin looked at Su Yingxue. Miss Su, this pulse chart doesn't prove anything. Where is Wu Jinyan? If you want to sue Lord Wu, I need to send someone to examine the injuries. Su Yingxue nodded. Wu Jinyan is recovering in my clinic. Lord Liang can send an officer to examine her injuries at any time, but please send a female officer. Of course. Liang Jin waved his hand, and his subordinate immediately brought the female officer to the clinic. The round trip was swift. The female officer returned with a report. Sir, I have examined Miss Wu's injuries. They are exactly as described in the pulse chart. If she hadn't been rescued in time, she might have lost her life. Liang Jin was enraged upon hearing this. He pointed at Wu Hongtao and said, Lord Wu, what kind of father are you? Do you consider the children born from concubines, not your blood, not your daughters? Wu Hongtao was caught off guard by the scolding. He had forgotten that he was initially trying to cover up for Wu Ruofei. Lord Liang, please calm down. It's not like that. Su Yingxue is making baseless accusations. Ruofei is a good-hearted child. She is just a bit spoiled. But when I saved Wu Jinyan, I heard Wu Ruofei say she wanted to torture Wu Jinyan to death. Otherwise, I wouldn't have accidentally injured her. Ultimately, I was trying to save Wu Jinyan's life. Lord Wu, please don't take offense if I harmed your precious daughter. Su Yingxue immediately shifted all the blame onto Wu Hongtao and exaggerated it. Wu Hongtao forgot to defend himself for a moment. He pondered whether he had truly gone too far. After a moment of contemplation, he regained his composure and angrily accused Su Yingxue, "You're being unreasonable. It was you who barged into my residence, injured my daughter, and even attacked me. It's all your fault. And Lord Wu is not at fault. You allow your daughter to commit murder and disregard her life. You are an uncompassionate father and an unjust official, yet you dare to sue me before Lord Liang." Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow, resembling a small lion baring its claws. Wu Hongtao's face turned red from being scolded. "I have been an official for many years, known for my integrity. You are slandering me. Slandering an official of the imperial court is an additional crime. I will leave it to Lord Liang to judge whether I'm guilty or not. As far as I recall, last month, the assistant of the Ministry of Justice had close connections with you. When he visited your residence, he even brought in several boxes through the back door of the minister's estate. I wonder what those boxes contained." Su Yingxue tilted her head innocently. Her words pierced into Wu Hongtao's heart like a steel needle. This Su Yingxue was indeed a peculiar creature, knowing even about that incident. Don't make baseless claims without evidence. Su Yingxue, you have injured me and my daughter. I will not let this matter rest. He turned to Liang Jin and cupped his hands. Lord Liang, as the capital governor, please judge this matter fairly. Liang Jin's face darkened as he glanced at him. I will deliver a fair judgment, but Lord Wu, you cannot escape the consequences. Allowing your daughter to commit murder is indeed a grave crime. Chapter 87. Su Yingxue doesn't have to kneel. Wu Hongtao knew that his current excuses would not deceive Liang Jin, so he shifted the blame onto Su Yingxue. Lord Liang, Su Yingxue has also committed a serious crime. You must not tolerate it. In Liang Jin's eyes, Wu Hongtao's disregard for familial relations was even more shameful than Su Yingxue's actions. With a stern face, Liang Jin responded, I will make my judgment. He sat down and contemplated how to handle the situation. After half an hour, Liang Jin looked at Wu Hongtao and Su Yingxue. Both of you are plaintiffs and defendants, and both of you have made mistakes. Therefore, I have decided to take both of you back to the capital prefecture for custody and schedule a court hearing at a later date. Wu Hongtao couldn't stay silent any longer. Lord Liang, I am an appointed official of the court. How can I be placed under custody? If this news spreads, I will lose my reputation. This cannot be. On the other hand, Su Yingxue appeared relatively calm. I am willing to go with Lord Liang. She was very clear about Liang Jin's reputation as an impartial and just official. She was confident that when the court hearing took place, she would ensure Wu Hongtao confessed and faced justice. In Liang Jin's eyes, he developed a slight admiration for Su Yingxue. Her composure and demeanor were truly remarkable. On the contrary, Wu Hongtao received a harsh scolding from Liang Jin. If you care so much about your reputation, why didn't you properly discipline your daughter? It's only now, when lives are at stake, that you suddenly care about your reputation. It's too late. Wu Hongtao's face was completely flushed, experiencing unprecedented humiliation. All of this was due to Su Yingxue. Su Dingheng felt a surge of delight when he saw Su Yingxue being taken away. He even pretended to be a loving father and instructed Su Yingxue, since Lord Liang is taking you into custody, I will take care of your clinic and shop on your behalf. While you are in the capital prefecture, reflect on your crimes. Don't provoke Lord Liang again. Su Yingxue shattered his illusions without any mercy. Father, there are professionals to manage the clinic and the shop. Even if I'm not around, you don't have to worry. What? What are you saying? Are you afraid that your father will embezzle your money? Su Dingheng became furious. Su Yingxue didn't hide her intentions at all. Indeed, that's the case. So, father, please don't meddle in my affairs. You unfilial daughter. Su Dingheng exploded. He wished for Liang Jin to take Su Yingxue away and never let her return. Hold on. Just as Liang Jin was about to leave with his entourage, Chu Yihan entered the Marquis Manor. As a renowned war hero, respected by everyone in the Great Qing dynasty, Chu Yihan was highly regarded even though there were no more battles, and he was no longer seen in his armor. Liang Jin held great respect for him. He quickly knelt to pay his respects. Greetings, Your Highness. He reminded Su Dingheng and Wu Hongtao, who also knelt before Chu Yihan. Greetings, Your Highness. Chu Yihan nodded and walked over. He supported Su Yingxue, who was about to kneel before him, and softly said, "You don't need to kneel before me." These words whispered into her ear were ambiguous and provocative, causing her tender earlobes to blush. Chu Yihan took his seat in the main position. 3 appointed officials of the imperial court remained kneeling in the hall, while Su Yingxue stood. The atmosphere was exceedingly peculiar. However, since Chu Yihan had forbidden Su Yingxue to kneel, Liang Jin and the others dared not utter a word. Noticing that Su Yingxue was still standing, Chu Yihan's voice turned colder as he said, "Sit down." Su Yingxue was speechless. Her father and Liang Jin were still kneeling. It didn't seem good. Seeing that she was still standing, Chu Yihan said coldly, "Sit down." Chapter 89. Did this king let you get up? Liang Jin's eyes were filled with confusion. Your Highness, how will you personally guard her? In what manner? There was a distinction between men and women. In his residence, there were female attendants who could watch over Su Yingxue, but Chu Yihan was a man. Was he going to personally guard Su Yingxue in the Marquis Manor? Su Dingheng grew anxious. Your Highness, it's unnecessary to trouble you. My daughter has made a mistake. I humbly request Lord Liang to bring her back to the capital prefecture. Are you kidding? He was already afraid of Chu Yihan. If he stayed in the Marquis Manor to watch over Su Yingxue, would his frail heart still hold up? Su Yingxue also felt uneasy. Your Highness, according to customs, it would be better for me to go with Lord Liang. Chu Yihan watched over her every day, but she refused. Do you not want me to guard you? Chu Yihan's cold gaze fell on Su Yingxue. His eyes were beautiful, but she could sense a hint of resentment as if she had done something cruel to him. Su Yingxue's lips twitched. She had to be cruel. Yes. The resentment in Chu Yihan's eyes vanished, and he spoke coldly to Liang Jin. Did you see that? She doesn't want to be guarded by me. It means she fears me. She willingly goes with you, but if anything happens to her under your care, whether she escapes, runs away, or if you handle the case unfairly, how will you handle it? Liang Jin was perplexed, his mind filled with question marks. He used his lifetime of experience in handling cases to analyze Chu Yihan's words and came to the conclusion, Chu Yihan forbade him from colluding with Su Yingxue. To confirm his suspicions, Chu Yihan added, I've heard that Mrs. Liang has a strict upbringing. If she learns that you're bringing a woman back to the manor to guard her, would she not be concerned? This, Liang Jin, known for his impartiality, was defeated by Chu Yihan. He had no choice but to compromise. If your highness is willing to personally guard Miss Su, then it would be good. However, can your highness guarantee that she won't escape or face any mishaps until the day I open the court? Naturally, I guarantee it, Chui Han said casually. Your highness, there's no need to trouble yourself. It's better than Lord Liang guards my daughter. Su Yingxue refused once again. To have Chui Han watch over her, what kind of situation would that be? What if he had to sleep in her bed at night to keep watch? Recalling their previous experience of sharing a bed, Su Yingxue felt the probability of that happening was too high. Chui Han held on to the jade pendant at his waist and calmly said, alternatively, the people from Tongchang Medical Center are suspected of assisting you in assaulting an official of the court. It might be better to bring them back to the capital prefecture for supervision as well. Su Yingxue clenched her lips. Chui Han, shameless. In the end, she compromised with the oppressive force. Liang Jin took Wu Hongtao away. Before leaving, he requested a promise from Chui Han that he would watch over Su Yingxue and prevent her from causing trouble at the minister's estate. Chui Han agreed. After Liang Jin departed, Su Yingxue intended to return to her courtyard. As the person assigned to guard her, Chui Han naturally accompanied her. When Su Dingheng saw Chui Han leave, he quickly had the servants help him up. Chui Han's chilling voice echoed in the air. Did I give you permission to rise? Plop. Su Dingheng was so frightened that he knelt back down and shouted, I wouldn't dare. Your Highness, please forgive me. Chui Han brazenly entered Su Yingxue's courtyard. Behind him, Mo Cheat silently admired his master's audacity. Su Yingxue entered the bedroom, and Chui Han followed. Shilan blocked his path. Your Highness, this is Miss Private Chamber. It would be best if you didn't enter. While Su Yingxue was pondering, a middle-aged woman dressed in luxurious clothes entered the clinic. She walked directly toward Su Yingxue, her dignified and graceful appearance accompanied by a slight smile. Hello, Miss Su. Su Yingxue's brow twitched. Madam, are you here for a medical visit? Please go to the counter and wait for your turn. Madam Wu was kind and polite. I'm here to pick up my daughter. Jin Yan has been staying with Miss Su for so long, causing you inconvenience. Picking up your daughter. Su Yingxue's lips curled up. Interesting. Madam Wu couldn't sit still anymore. Madam Wu smiled and nodded. Yes, after all, Jin Yan is the daughter of the minister's estate. It wouldn't be proper to keep troubling Miss Su. Madam Wu, are you planning to bring Sister Jin Yan back and continue to mistreat her, torturing her to death? Su Yingxue smiled, but her beautiful eyes emitted an icy chill. The smile on Madam Wu's face froze, and she quickly said, What are you talking about, Miss Su? The daughter of the minister's estate is naturally well cared for. How could she be mistreated? Chapter 92, The Battle of the Three Kingdoms. Entanglement between women. Could it be that Sister Jin Yan caused her injuries? Su Yingxue coldly questioned. If Miss Su insists on discussing injuries, then I will have a proper discussion with Miss Su. Madam Wu waved her handkerchief. Bring Miss in. A group of people outside the door brought in a luxurious chaise lounge. Wu Ruofei had thick bandages wrapped around her hands and legs, and she appeared before everyone with a resentful expression. Madam Wu walked to Wu Ruofei's side, held her hand, and wiped away 2 tears. I came here today to have all of the people in the clinic to be witnesses. This is my daughter. She used to be a bit willful and temperamental, but she was a good girl. However, she suddenly encountered a calamity and had her limbs severed. Although Wu Ruofei lacked intelligence, her face was delicate and tender. At this moment, tears of anger were streaming down her face, causing many to sympathize with her. Oh, what kind of person did this girl offend? She was beaten so severely. It seems to be related to Miss Sue. Could it be that she was the one who attacked her? This is the Minister of Estate's daughter. Miss Sue is too audacious. Su Yingsuk's reputation was already not very good. Despite her previous accomplishment of healing Consort Xiang and gaining the reputation of a genius doctor, it had only managed to change the opinion of a few commoners. However, when Madame Wu presented Wu Ruofei to the public, it reinforced the negative perception of Su Yingxue. Regardless of Su Yingshu's exceptional medical skills, she was still seen as a person with questionable character, and cruel in her actions. Su Yingshu's eyes emanated a chilling aura. If Madame Wu wants to treat Miss, I will accept patients as usual. However, if Madame Wu wants to bring Sister Jin Yan back to continue tormenting her, I will not stand idly by. After all, your daughter's life is important, and although Sister Jin Yan is a concubine's daughter, her life is just as precious. Who is she? She's just a servant that I can beat and scold as I please. Wu Ruofei couldn't bear to see Su Yingxue protecting Wu Jinyan like this. Since she was young, her mother had taught her about the distinction between main and side branches. She was the legitimate daughter of the family and should enjoy all the love and favor, while people like Wu Jinyan were born as lowly as servants and dogs. She didn't need to be polite to them and could treat them however she wanted. Su Yingxue sneered. Everyone present has heard it. In Miss Wu's eyes, even blood relatives are considered servants. If I were to hand Sister Jin Yan over to you, she would probably die in the minister's estate, and no one would even bother to collect her corpse. Madame Wu, please understand that I cannot agree to your request. Madame Wu lowered her head and gave Wu Ruofei a stern look, gesturing for her to be quiet. Wu Ruofei sulked with a pouted mouth, suppressing her anger. She thought that as long as she could bring Wu Jinyan back, she could continue to torment her as she pleased. Miss Su, how can you say such things? Although our Ruofei is a bit delicate, Jin Yan is still her biological sister. Sisters often argue and bicker, but in just 1 or 2 days, they will still be sisters. Jin Yan has grown up in the minister's estate all these years, why hasn't she mentioned her grievances until now? But the moment Miss Su appeared, she claimed that Jin Yan was seriously injured. Now, she won't even allow her to meet Jin Yan. Miss Su, as a mother, how can I feel at ease with Jin Yan being with you? Su Yingxue had to admit that Madame Wu was skilled at twisting the truth, but she would never allow Wu Jinyan to go back. Madam, you want to bring Sister Jin Yan back and use her as a bargaining chip, don't you? She whispered in Madame Wu's ear. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Madame Wu's eyes. Her voice turned gentle. Miss Su, you have misunderstood. As the mistress of the house, I must love and care for my daughter. Chapter 93, The Battle of the Three Kingdoms. There's always a way to make Su Yingxue worry, no need to pretend. Let me tell you, that's impossible. Su Yingxue took 2 steps back and waved her hand, signaling to Manager Qi, Manager Qi, please ask Madame Wu to leave. Manager Qi complied and approached, but Madame Wu retorted, Miss Su, are you trying to chase people away just because you don't agree? Does this clinic usually exhibit such domineering and bullying behavior, mistreating the weak? Su Yingxue let out a cold laugh. Madame Wu, I won't hand over Sister Jin Yan to you. If you enjoy the scent of herbs in my clinic, be my guest. Madame Wu was left downstairs by Su Yingxue. She neither left nor became angry, and she sat in the clinic's lobby with Wu Ruofei. People came and went, and they couldn't help but cast a few glances at them. These glances quickly turned into discussions. As the discussions continued, the news of this incident began to spread. Some bored individuals, after finishing their treatment, lingered around, waiting to witness the outcome of this spectacle. Wu Ruofei had never been subjected to such scrutiny by so many people before. She was both annoyed and flustered throughout the afternoon, her small face turning red. She tugged at her mother's hand, acting spoiled. "Mother, let's go home. This clinic smells awful. The people here are so dirty. I don't want to stay here. Endure a little longer." Madame Wu maintained her composure. She embraced Wu Ruofei and lowered her voice. "Suing Xue isn't someone easy to deal with. She even caused your father to be imprisoned in the capital prefecture. If we can't bring Sister Jinyan back and use it as leverage against her, well, be at her mercy. But this place is dirty and smelly. It hurts. Mother." Wu Ruofei persisted, displaying the temperament of a child denied a candy. She couldn't care less about what her mother said about the consequences. She just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. "If you still want to torment Wu Jinyan, listen to your mother." Madame Wu seized Wu Ruofei's painful spot. It was Wu Jinyan who caused her to have her limbs broken by Suing Xue. She couldn't harm Suing Xue, but she longed to break every bone in Wu Jinyan's body. To retrieve Wu Jinyan, she clenched her teeth and endured for a long time. The mother and daughter sat in the clinic's lobby until dusk. In Su Yingshu's consultation room, Manager Qi approached to report, "Madame Wu has no intention of leaving yet, Mississippi. Although we didn't have many patients today, there are quite a few spectators. This may have an impact on the clinic's reputation." Suing Xue finished writing the last prescription and furrowed her brow. Madame Wu was proving difficult to deal with. She couldn't allow Wu Jinyan to intervene, as it would make her seem weak in terms of reason. She said, "Let them wait. When the clinic closes, ask them to leave. If they refuse, have someone stay behind to keep watch and ensure nothing untoward happens." Madame Wu waited the entire day, but Suing Xue remained unyielding. In the evening, Wu Ruofei had to return home to change her bandages and take her medicine before they left together. After Wu Ruofei finished drinking her medicine, she lay on the bed, wiping away her tears in frustration. "Mother, didn't you promise that we would bring Wu Jinyan back and make Suing Xue anxious?" Now, Suing Xue showed no signs of urgency, and Wu Jinyan had not been retrieved. Wu Ruofei was both angry and in pain, unable to sleep soundly at night. Madame Wu patted her shoulder, trying to console her. "Don't worry. Suing Xue is just a woman. Even if she can harm your father, she has no reason to harm us now. She's protecting Wu Jinyan because she has her concerns. She's also handling a tricky question." A hint of maliciousness flashed in Madame Wu's eyes. She had ways to make Suing Xue anxious. Chapter 94. Forcing Suing Xue to hand over Wu Jinyan for the next few days, she brought Wu Ruofei to the clinic every day, but they remained calm and didn't cause any trouble. Each time, Wu Ruofei would only cry and plead, begging for Wu Jinyan to be returned to them. Suing Xue refused to hand her over, and they didn't insist further. They simply sat in the clinic for a few days. As a result, even those who initially found Suing Xue reasonable gradually began to view her as unreasonable and overbearing. Even some patients who came to the clinic advised Suing Xue not to meddle in the affairs of the minister's estate. Since Wu Jinyan was still severely injured, Suing Xue couldn't allow her to leave, so they didn't engage in conversation. Later on, Madame Wu fell ill directly in the clinic. Manager Qi had someone help her up and gave her some restorative pills. When Madame Wu woke up, she stared at Suing Xue with teary eyes. "Miss Su, you were concerned that I would mistreat Jinyan, but I have been staying here for so many days just to see her. Now that you're keeping her in prison and preventing us from seeing each other, it's too heartless. I implore you to let me take Jinyan home." Suing Xue truly admired the audacity of this woman, but she remained cold. Madam Wu, this is not a theater. You should go home and sing. Su Yingxue, my mother has begged you so much, how long do you intend to keep holding the people of the minister's estate? Wu Ruofei shouted. Su Yingxue chose to ignore her. However, all the patients in the clinic started to join the commotion raised by the mother and daughter. Miss Su, you've gone too far. Miss Wu is the daughter of the minister's estate. Why are you keeping her hostage? That's right, this is a matter of the minister's estate. You, an outsider, shouldn't meddle in it. Miss Su, please mind your own business. Allow Madam Wu to fulfill her motherly heart. A motherly heart. Madam Wu, has she ever shown a motherly heart to me? A weak but angry voice echoed from the stairs. Su Yingxue saw Wu Jinyan slowly descending the stairs with the support of Jilan. She furrowed her brows and hurried to assist her. Her cold gaze swept across Jilan. Didn't I already warn you not to let Sister Jinyan get out of bed? Her injuries, Yingxue, don't blame Jilan. I insisted on coming down. Wu Jinyan held Su Yingxue's hand. Jilan pouted. Miss Jinyan's hearing is not bad. Su Yingxue tapped her head lightly. We'll settle the score later. She supported Wu Jinyan as they descended the stairs. Wu Jinyan walked up to Madam Wu, her delicate face bearing a hint of mockery. Madam, when have you ever acted as a loving mother to me in these past 10 years? How dare you say such words in front of Yingxue? Madam Wu wiped away the tears in the corners of her eyes and reached out to hold Wu Jinyan's hand. Jinyan, I know you are an outstanding person. As a daughter of a concubine, you have suffered some injustice. However, I have raised both of your sisters since you were young, treating you fairly and without bias. If Ruofei has something, you have it too. But now, after meeting Miss Su, you collude with her to harm your sister and even caused your father to be imprisoned in the capital prefecture. How can you, as a daughter, bear to do such things? The people present didn't understand Wu Jinyan's situation. They only saw the pitiful state of Madam Wu in the past few days, so they all started to curse Wu Jinyan, accusing her of being heartless. Hearing these insults, Wu Jinyan found it particularly ironic. She forcefully shook off Madam Wu's hand and took a step back, a mocking smile forming on her lips. Madam Wu, do you dare to say that you have treated me as your own all these years without any bias? Madam Wu spoke with confidence, why wouldn't I dare? As the matriarch of the minister's estate, I have naturally been impartial. I have always been fair to my children. Chapter 95, Proof of Stripping. Very well, then I'll let everyone see just how fair you, the madam of a minister, truly are. Wu Jinyan shouted coldly. She untied her outer garment, revealing her skin that was partially visible beneath a sheer layer of fabric. She rolled up her sleeves and said, on my hands, there are 13 scars. They were inflicted by whipping with rattan, branding with hot iron, and piercing with steel needles. Then, she lifted the hem of her dress and continued, on my legs, there are 7 wounds, 2 of which were caused by Wu Ruofei's dagger. They are so deep that the bones are visible, and the scars haven't healed yet. And on my body, she intended to undress, but Su Yingxue quickly stopped her, saying, Sister, please don't do this. A woman's reputation was of utmost importance, and if she undressed like this, her reputation would be completely ruined. Wu Jinyan let go of Su Yingxue's hand and stared at her with teary, bloodshot eyes. Yingxue, I'm fine. Under Su Yingxue's palm were her scars, and this made her hesitate. Wu Jinyan was only wearing an undergarment, and her body was exposed to everyone. Visible to the naked eye were countless scars, causing the onlookers to gasp in shock. Someone couldn't help but whisper, this is too cruel. Does Madame Wu still want to take her back? Will she even make it back alive? Madame Wu narrowed her eyes, a storm of darkness brewing within them. Wu Ruofei couldn't contain her anger and cursed, "Wu Jinyan, you have no shame. The minister's estate also has its reputation to uphold. You've tarnished father's reputation, and I swear it'll kill you." If it weren't for her broken legs, she would have rushed forward and pressed Wu Jinyan's head against a blade. How could she dare to do something so disgraceful? Wu Jinyan trembled all over, tears of hatred welling up in the corners of her eyes. "As daughters of the minister's estate, what gives you the right to strike me? Just because you're a bitch born to a despicable woman." Wu Ruofei sneered with arrogance. She had always looked down upon Wu Jinyan's lowly birth and felt that she didn't deserve any respect in her presence. That was why she couldn't stand seeing her happy. Wu Jinyan approached her, raised her hand high, and slapped her hard across the face. Smack! "Wu Ruofei, you have no right to insult my mother. Despite her humble background, she is a kind-hearted woman. And what about you, with your noble birth? You're arrogant, extravagant, and disregarding human life. You're not worthy of being the legitimate daughter of the minister's estate." "She's not worthy, but are you?" Madame Wu pushed Wu Jinyan away, her eyes filled with contempt from head to toe. "Wu Jinyan, even if the minister's estate treated you poorly, we have raised you for over a decade. But today, you dare to undress in public, shaming yourself and tarnishing the reputation of the minister's estate. Our minister's estate will not accept a daughter like you. The minister's estate doesn't accept me." Wu Jinyan laughed heartily. "Perfect. I also have no intention of returning to that filthy place. From this day forward, Wu Jinyan has no connection to the minister's estate. Madame Wu, there's no need for your hypocritical sympathy and to disturb the entire clinic. Jinyan, it is you who wants to sever ties with the minister's estate. I didn't force you. Our minister's estate is an esteemed and noble family. The children in our family are all exceptional individuals. You are truly unworthy of being a child of the minister's estate." Madame Wu's eyes were filled with cold disdain as she looked down on Wu Jinyan from head to toe. Meanwhile, she embraced Wu Ruofei in her arms, treating her like a treasure. "You have no right to insult Yenner." Su Hao hurriedly arrived, wearing his battle armor with an imposing presence. His brows exuded a sense of anger. He took off his cloak and draped it over Wu Jinyan, embracing her frail body. "Yenner, don't be afraid." Chapter 96, Slap the Face. Wu Jinyan's heart felt like a withered spring, but with Su Hao's arrival, a warm current surged within her. She couldn't help but bury her head in his embrace and cry. Wu Ruofei was furious when she saw this scene. She used her hands and feet to try and separate them. "Wu Jinyan, you bitch. Who do you think you are to be with Brother Hao? You're not worthy. Let go of my Brother Hao. Brother Hao, she's just a bitch. How could you be attracted to her?" Wu Ruofei yelled like a mad woman. Su Hao turned to her and glared, sternly rebuking, "Shut up. You have no right to insult Yenner. She is 100 times more noble than you." Wu Ruofei had liked Su Hao for a long time, and even catching a glimpse of him would make her ecstatic for half a day. But now he rejected her and said that she was not as noble as Wu Jinyan, causing her to burst into tears. Sob, sob. "Brother Hao, how could you say that about me? Wu Jinyan is just a bitch, what's so good about her? Why do you like her and not me?" Ruofei, General Su is a young hero, full of youthful vigor. It's possible for him to be temporarily captivated by a seductive woman. After all, as a legitimate daughter of the minister's estate like you would never strip off your clothes in public, Madame Wu consoled Wu Ruofei, a hint of derision in the corner of her mouth. Su Hao's arrival did not restore Wu Jinyan's reputation. It only made people think that Wu Jinyan, a wretch, could seduce even a renowned young general like Su Hao. A wretch would always be a wretch. Su Hao clenched his fists. Yenna wanted everyone to see how cruel you and your daughter are. The wounds on her body are all thanks to you. If it weren't for you, Yenna wouldn't have been tormented like this. And yet, you dare to come here and make things difficult for her. General Su, don't be so angry. You're young and promising, but you've been bewitched. There will come a day when you wake up and realize that lowly women will always be lowly. Only women like our Ruofei are worthy of becoming your wife, Madame Wu provocatively smiled. The sharpness in her eyes was like a knife hovering over Wu Jinyan's heart. This was said to make her understand that no matter how she struggled, she couldn't escape her lowly status. Su Hao and she were worlds apart. Wu Jinyan felt empty inside, and her head became dizzy, almost on the verge of fainting. You're wrong. In this lifetime, Su Hao will marry Yenner, and Yenner alone. What does it matter if she's the daughter of a minister? In my eyes, you can't even compare to a single strand of Yenner's hair. Su Hao held Wu Jinyan tightly, his heart aching. He didn't dare exert any force on her frail body, as if she would crumble in his arms if he did. General Su, you keep calling her Yenner as if she's been seducing you for quite some time. However, wretches will always remain improper. For the sake of the Marquis manor and the old general's face, it's better for General Su to sever ties with this wretch sooner rather than later. Madame Wu's eyes were filled with contempt. Since she couldn't take Wu Jinyan away today, she might as well completely ruin her, so that she would have no face to continue living in this world. Wait a moment, Madame Wu. Are you suggesting that the person who seduced my brother is a wretch? Su Yingshu's lips curled into a smile. Madame Wu immediately grew wary. What do you mean, Miss Su? Su Yingshu pointed at Wu Ruofei and loudly addressed the crowd. Did everyone hear just now how Sister Jinyan referred to my brother? And how did this esteemed legitimate daughter, born to the minister's wife, address my brother? Chapter 97. Have you seen it before? Wu Ruofei didn't realize that this was a scheme to provoke her and eagerly jumped into Su Yingshu's trap. What's wrong with me calling him Brother Hao? Su Yingshu, what does it have to do with you? Madame Wu quickly covered her mouth and gave her a stern glare. Shut up. Is it appropriate for a young girl like you to address him like that? Su Yingshu wore a nonchalant smile with a hint of satisfaction. Everyone heard it. The esteemed legitimate daughter of the minister's estate addressed my brother so intimately, even though they are not familiar with each other. In fact, my brother might not even know her name. Yet, she seduces him like this. Earlier, Madame Wu scolded Sister Jinyan. Does that mean she has good control over her legitimate daughter? What gives you, Miss Su, the right to twist the truth? How can a form of address be considered seduction? Madame Wu's eyes sparkled with coldness. If a form of address isn't considered seduction, then what about the love letters, handkerchiefs, and jewelry sachets that Miss Wu wrote and gave to my brother? Are those not considered seduction? Su Yingshu raised her eyebrows. Su Yingshu, don't spew baseless accusations and tarnish my daughter's innocence. Madame Wu became angry. She glanced at Wu Ruofei, who appeared guilty. It was evident that Su Yingshu wasn't speaking nonsense. She had done such a thing. Wu Ruofei bit her lip. I like Brother Hao, so I gave him those things. You fool, keep quiet. Madame Wu scolded her, disappointed. Amidst the mocking and laughing gazes of everyone present, she angrily left with Wu Ruofei. Before leaving, Wu Ruofei couldn't help but cast a reluctant gaze at Su Hao. However, Su Hao didn't spare her a glance. In his eyes, there was only the seriously injured Wu Jinyan. Su Yingshu dispersed the crowd, and Su Hao carried Wu Jinyan upstairs. After placing Wu Jinyan on the bed, Su Yingxue saw her brother, a tall and sturdy young man, with teary eyes in front of Wu Jinyan's bed. Su Hao held Wu Jinyan's hand tenderly. "Yener, marry me. I will protect you with all my heart." I don't want to," Wu Jinyan sobbed, turning around and burying herself under the blanket. No matter what Su Hao said, she refused to look at him again. "Brother, let Sister Jinyan rest well. Come out with me," Su Yingxue said, exerting a great effort to pull Su Hao out. Su Hao was hot-blooded, but he only knew how to rush to Wu Jinyan's side to protect her. However, he had no idea how to heal her wounded heart. "Brother, instead of staying with Sister Jinyan now, why don't you let her calm down and get a good sleep?" Su Yingxue advised him. Su Hao couldn't calm down for a long time. "I can't let her go. She has so many physical and emotional wounds. Now that she has severed ties with the minister's estate, she needs someone to protect her. I can protect Sister Jinyan, but brother, don't overprotect her for now. Sister Jinyan might end up getting hurt because of it." Su Yingxue saw this more clearly than Su Hao did. "Why?" Su Hao was puzzled. "When you came to protect Sister Jinyan earlier, she was touched, but it also hurt her. She doesn't want to expose her battered appearance to you," Su Yingxue explained. A bitter smile formed on Su Hao's lips. "In the past, she let me see it. At that time, she never guarded herself against me. But now, I've hurt her. Have you seen it before?" "You too," Su Yingxue was surprised. Her brother was a paragon of virtue, abstaining from vices like eating, drinking, gambling, and smoking. He had better control over his desires and emotions than the monks in a temple. Chapter 98. A man's charm. She had always thought that she was her brother's only weakness. She never expected the development between her brother and Wu Jinyan. "What are you thinking?" Su Hao tapped Su Yingxue's head. "Yener isn't that kind of girl. At that time, she was encouraging me to keep going." Su Hao recalled the first time he met Wu Jinyan. She had gone into the mountains to gather herbs and came across him, heavily injured. He was covered in blood, but she didn't mind and saved his life, hiding him in a cave to recover. At that time, she was innocent and straightforward. He was worried about the injuries all over his body and refused to let her take off his clothes to apply the medicine. For his life, she took off her clothes and let him see that she was also covered in injuries. There was nothing to be embarrassed about. So, he agreed to let off his clothes. While Wu Jinyan was applying medicine to his wounds, he couldn't help but ask, "How could a young girl like you have so many injuries?" Wu Jinyan smiled and replied, "Are only men allowed to be injured in this world? As a woman, I can bear many wounds. Do you think you, a towering young man, would lose to me?" "Of course not." Motivated by her words, Su Hao endured the excruciating pain of his injuries and the difficulties of relying solely on herbal medicine until he could leave the cave. He promised Wu Jinyan that he would grit his teeth and endure no matter how dangerous the situation was or how badly he was injured. Because of her words, he had become a young general. He had thought that he could give Wu Jinyan more and save her from her misery. But he didn't expect that their relationship would become distant. "I didn't realize there was so much going on between brother and Sister Jinyan that I wasn't aware of." Su Yingxue pouted and touched her nose, pretending to be jealous. Su Hao earnestly explained, "You're different, but have I ever cared less about you?" "No." Su Yingxue firmly shook her head. Even though Su Hao liked Wu Jinyan, he had always been good to Su Yingxue, whether in their past or present lives. So she wasn't worried at all that once Wu Jinyan became her sister-in-law, Su Hao would treat her unfairly. She led Su Hao away and carefully analyzed the situation for him. Sister Jean Yen will make herself better. I will accompany her, but right now, the problem is how to help her resolve her anger toward the minister's estate. She's usually so composed, but today she went all out. It shows how long she has endured and how difficult it has been for her. Su Yingxue wasn't joking around with Su Hao. If Su Hao hadn't shown up, she would have gone to the minister's estate with Ziwei and quietly taken care of the matter. But now that Su Hao was here, she couldn't steal his task. She was also worried that Su Hao might be too upright and could not think of any schemes to make things difficult for women, or that he would not do it. Unexpectedly, after pondering for a moment, Su Hao patted her head. I know what to do. What? What are you going to do, brother? Su Yingxu's mischievous eyes revealed a curious expression. Su Hao left her hanging. You'll find out when the time comes. Su Yingxue was speechless. Why were men so mysterious and charming? She looked at Su Hao's back. Wasn't he incredibly handsome? And that ninth prince, although he always looked serious, he was shameless. Su Yingxue patted her head. Why am I thinking about him again? She forced herself to find something else to do and went to the backyard where her mother's belongings were kept. There were many ancient medical books there, and she hadn't finished reading them. She randomly picked one up to read. She tilted her head, her tousled hair floating around her rosy cheeks, resembling an adorable little fox. Ziwei's ears turned slightly red. Sweet. Then drink your medicine first and cat the candy later. Su Yingxue placed the 2 bowls of medicine in front of Ziwei, coercing and tempting him. After you finish the medicine, you'll get to have candy. If you don't drink it, it'll knock you out and pour it down your throat. Efficiently, Ziwei finished both bowls of medicine, not leaving a single drop. Then, Su Yingxue gave him 2 candies. She could see that after eating the candy, his complexion wasn't as gloomy and dreadful. Originally, she wanted to give him the whole bag of candies in her hand. But after some thought, she tucked it away. It'll give you more next time to prevent you from neglecting the medicine again. Ziwei's heart skipped a beat. Lowering his head, he spoke slowly, okay. As Su Yingxue left, she encountered the person sent by Liang Jin. The person informed her, Lord Wu has been subjected to wooden paddle punishment, and his body is unable to bear it. Lord Liang has to postpone the trial. During this period, I hope Miss Su will behave and wait for Lord Liang's summons. Chapter 100, Su Hao's plans. Su Yingxue politely nodded in response. Please inform Lord Liang that I will indeed comply. I won't cause any trouble. However, I would like to inquire about Lord Wu's condition. The person remained tight-lipped. Lord Wu is currently resting in bed. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. Su Yingxue saw him off and thought to herself that even though he didn't explicitly mention Wu Hongtao's condition, the fact that Liang Jin, with his swift and decisive nature, was delaying the court session for him indicated that his injuries were likely severe. Su Yingxue smirked. This provided her with an opportunity to make some preparations. She took Ziwei to the minister's estate and headed straight to Wu Hongtao's study. Ziwei stood guard outside the door while Su Yingxue thoroughly searched the study. Among the hidden compartments in the bookcase, she found 2 account books. Upon opening them, Su Yingxue's lips curved up in satisfaction. With these account books, it would be impossible for Wu Hongtao to defeat her. The account books provided detailed records of Wu Hongtao's embezzlement and bribery over the years, documenting treasures and wealth that amounted to 10 or even 100 times his official salary. In his previous life, Wu Hongtao was exiled because of this account book. However, that was a matter that would happen a few years later. Now that Wu Hongtao had provoked her in advance, she had something on him in her hands in advance to see what he could do. Su Yingxue took the account book and was about to leave, but she heard the servant girl who was delivering the medicine to Wu Ruofei whispering along the way, so she followed curiously. Ziwei followed behind her without being noticed by anyone. Su Yingxue and Ziwei crouched on the rooftop above Wu Ruofei's room, eavesdropping as Madame Wu cheerfully rewarded her servant girls. The maids who attended Wu Ruofei received their rewards with joyous expressions. Even Wu Ruofei, who had been humiliated the previous day, lay on the bed with a happy countenance. Su Yingxue couldn't help but wonder why Wu Hongtao being imprisoned in the capital prefecture would bring such happiness to mother and daughter. Madame Wu fed Wu Ruofei her medicine and reassured her, "Fei, focus on recovering from your injuries. Your mother will take care of your father's matters. Moreover, your two brothers have excelled and been selected as candidates for the Black Cloud Cavalry. Once they establish themselves within the ranks of the Black Cloud Cavalry, our Wu family will be filled with honor, both in civil and military spheres. By then, many respectable families will come seeking your hand in marriage." "Mother, I don't want a respectable family. I want Brother Hao. I only want Brother Hao." Wu Ruofei clung to Madame Wu's hand and acted coquettishly. "What's so special about that Su Hao? He's a man who lacks charm, and he's even attracted to Wu Jinyan. Given his taste, why are you fixated on him?" Madame Wu's eyes were filled with disgust. Even if Su Hao was exceptional, the fact that he was interested in Wu Jinyan but not her daughter made her unwilling to see Wu Ruofei marry him in the future. "Brother Hao is so handsome and powerful. I don't care. I want to marry Brother Hao. Moreover, I want to be his lawful wife. If that Wu Jinyan dares to bother him again in the future, he'll kill her right in front of Brother Hao." Wu Ruofei appeared innocent but had a fierce look in her eyes. Su Yingxue sighed and clicked her tongue. A rabbit that hadn't even grown its full fur, yet it considered itself a fierce tigress capable of commanding the winds and rains. Truly, those who were spoiled often turned out to be fools. However, Madame Wu's mention of her two sons being chosen for the Black Cloud Cavalry raised suspicions in Su Yingxue's mind. On their way back, Su Yingxue asked Ziwei, "Have you heard of the Black Cloud Cavalry?" Ziwei nodded. "They are the elite soldiers of the dynasty, revered as divine martial warriors." Chapter 101, Humiliating the Wu family. Su Yingxue said, "That's right. My brother is indeed a member of the Black Cloud Cavalry. However, the selection process for the Black Cloud Cavalry is rigorous. Even as a candidate, one must have a clean family background and be highly skilled in martial arts. Wu Hongtao's two sons have never been well known, so how could they suddenly be selected as candidates for the Black Cloud Cavalry? Is it a stroke of luck for the Wu family? Your brother." Ziwei's hoarse voice pierced Su Yingxue like a needle. Su Yingxue suddenly understood and said, "So, my brother has his way to handle this." While Wu Hongtao's trial had not begun yet, Su Yingxue was currently being detained in the capital prefecture. Su Yingxue was fully occupied with managing the medical clinic when suddenly she heard some commotion on the street. She asked Jilan to go out and see what was happening. After Jilan went out to inquire, she came back with excitement. "Miss, after you finish attending to the patient, you should personally go and take a look. Don't forget to inform Miss Jinyan." Jilan winked, leaving her in suspense. Su Yingxue thought to herself that this girl had been getting more creative lately. She had just finished seeing a patient. After she wrote the prescription, she went to the neighboring room to see Wu Jinyan. Wu Jinyan was sitting on the bed, lost in thought, with her brows tightly furrowed. Su Yingxue helped her up, saying, "Jilan mentioned that there's something lively happening on the street. Sister, let's go and see." Wu Jinyan continued to frown. "I'm not interested. Since it's a lively event, it wouldn't hurt to take a look, Su Yingxue said as she supported Wu Jinyan and walked to the window, opening it. Wu Jinyan was initially feeling down, but when she saw Su Hao riding on a horse on the street, her eyes widened in surprise. How could he? She saw Su Hao not only riding a horse but also holding 2 ropes with 2 people tied behind him. They were her brothers, Wu Lang and Wu Ping, the 2 sons of Madame Wu. Wu Jinyan was taken aback. What's happening? Su Yingxue explained, your 2 brothers were supposed to be candidates for the Black Cloud Cavalry, but they committed a serious offense, which is why your brother is punishing them like this. The Black Cloud Cavalry was the most formidable troop in the Great Qing dynasty. Even someone as skilled as Su Hao was just a captain, highlighting how stringent their requirements were. Clearly, the 2 young masters of the minister's estate were elated to be selected as candidates for the Black Cloud Cavalry, unaware of the hardships they would face. Su Hao punished them legitimately for their mistake. Su Yingxue remembered that this was not the first time. In her memories from her previous life, Chui Han had once captured 10 deserters from the Black Cloud Cavalry, dragging them around the city with his fast horse and killing 3 of them. At that time, Chui Han earned a reputation for being ruthless and merciless, not realizing that as elite soldiers of the country, they could not afford any errors. Otherwise, when the country faced danger and needed their intervention, they might defect or prove incompetent, causing the dynasty's last line of defense to crumble, leading to the fall of the kingdom and bringing untold disasters. Consequently, the Great Qing dynasty had exceptionally high standards for its military. Su Hao's move was truly ingenious. The Wu family could never have imagined that not only would they fail to attain honor, but they would also lose their standing and reputation. Su Yingxue and Wu Jinyan observed from upstairs. Su Hao was dragging Wu Lang and Wu Ping, shouting, as members of the Black Cloud Cavalry, you betrayed us halfway. You deserve to be punished. Wu Lang and Wu Ping appeared spineless as Su Hao dragged them, crying and begging for mercy all the way. They wished they could kneel and plead with Su Hao to spare them. Su Hao led them through the streets, and the people looked at them with disdain. There were more than 10 rooms, and the first floor's hall was spacious enough to accommodate dozens of people. The space was ample and excellent. However, she furrowed her brows. This place is good, but using it for a clinic might not be appropriate. Firstly, it's too close to Tongchang Medical Center. Secondly, the rent here must be high. If we don't use it for business, we might suffer losses. Sister, you have foresight and ideas. So, I'll leave this place to you to do business. There shouldn't be any problems. Su Yingxue smiled. What? You want me to run a business here? One can't do that. Wu Jinyan immediately shook her head. This investment and expenses were significant, and she couldn't let Su Yingxue incur such a substantial loss. Sister, don't rush to refuse. Let me ask you, you are familiar with spices and very interested in the production of cosmetics like rouge and powder. You have a pair of skillful hands and a clever mind. If I hand over the storefront to you, what would you use it for? Chapter 103, Chance for Women. Wu Jinyan thought for a moment and said, naturally, one would open a rouge and cosmetic shop. However, a shop of this size is too small, and the income wouldn't be ideal. Moreover, hiring experienced and skilled personnel would require careful arrangements. Su Yingxue patted her hand confidently and said, then I'll leave the shop and the arrangements to you, sister. You bought this shop for me, Yingxue. Wu Jinyan felt a hint of guilt and a sense of inferiority she couldn't explain. Although she was humble, she had been self-reliant since she was young. She had done favors to others, but she rarely received favors from others. This would make her feel that she was useless. It was true that she had cut off all ties with the minister's estate, so she was indeed no great use. Su Yingxue looked at Wu Jinyan seriously and clarified, "No, I did it to make money. Sister, you know that for a woman to establish herself in the world, she must first have the property." Wu Jinyan's admiration for Su Yingxue grew even more. She could see things more clearly than most women, and that quality was indeed important. In this world, even if a man was born into a humble family, he could still rely on his abilities to make a name for himself. However, it was much more difficult for women. From birth, their destinies were largely determined. Before marriage, they relied on their parents' family background, and after marriage, they depended on their husbands. They couldn't strive openly and didn't have the same opportunities to compete on equal terms with men. Su Yingxue was born in a marquis manor and should have enjoyed a lofty position, but her foresight and advanced thinking were admirable and made her more attractive to spend time with. However, Wu Jinyan still had some concerns. Although I'm familiar with spices and have some knowledge of rouge and cosmetics, this shop is too big. Starting construction will be a considerable expense, and if I can't make it profitable, Sister Jinyan, you dared to sever ties with the minister's estate and leave on your own. Don't you have the courage to manage a shop well? Or are you worried that if my brother finds out that one gave you the shop, it would damage your image in front of him? Su Yingxue pointed out directly. Wu Jinyan blushed slightly. That's true. So, Sister Jinyan, you will manage this place well and prove to my brother that he is a young general and that you are not weak, right? Su Yingxue's words struck a chord in Wu Jinyan's heart. Since the day she found out about Su Hao's identity, she had felt inferior. Why didn't she have a noble status like Wu Ruofei? If she did, she believed she could be with Su Hao. However, she thought of her mother who loved her very much. Even though her mother was born into a prostitute family and had a humble status, she was still a proud woman. She had taught her since she was young that a woman should have a backbone and be independent. Therefore, even if her identity was worlds apart from Su Hao's, she had never completely given up. Now that she had the opportunity, she naturally wanted to give it a try. Looking at Su Yingxue with gratitude, Wu Jinyan said, "As long as you trust me, I won't let you down." No wonder my brother likes you so much, Sister Jinyan. Your courage and determination are no less than a man's. Su Yingxue smiled. After they looked around the shop, they returned to the clinic. Although Wu Jinyan was eager to seize the opportunity, Su Yingxue didn't want her to work too hard. At the very least, she had to let her recover before she opened the shop. Wu Jinyan had not been idle over the past few days. She began to plan and arrange the shop. "You, get out and let the patient in," Su Yingxue said bluntly. Su Yuro gritted her teeth in her heart. If Su Yingxue continued to act arrogantly, she would pay dearly if she couldn't cure Lin Cece later. She put on a smile and went outside to call, "Cece, come in quickly. My sister is a renowned genius doctor. She will surely cure you." Then, a woman in a green outfit walked in. Although her attire indicated she was a noble lady from a prestigious family, her face, Su Yingxue was taken aback. Her face was covered with pimples and marks, resembling a rice field with young seedlings. Lin Cece needed the courage to come out. When she saw Su Yingxue's expression mirroring others, she immediately became angry and swung her whip at Su Yingxue. "What are you looking at? You think I'm ugly too, don't you?" Su Yingxue evaded her whip, furrowing her brows. She immediately realized that her temper was not great. She was easily agitated and had excessive internal heat, which could be strongly related to the pimples on her face. "Is that why he taught you to use violence whenever you dislike someone, without any scruples?" Lin Cece gritted her teeth and said, "So what? Su Yingxue, let me tell you, just because you're the daughter of the Marquis Manor doesn't mean our Lin family will fear you. My parents only have me as their daughter. If you dare to harm me, they will tear down the Marquis Manor. Fine, go ahead and demolish the Marquis Manor if you wish. In any case, the one who will die young and explode won't be anyone from the Marquis Manor. After finishing taking her pulse, Su Yingxue sat opposite Lin Cece. Eiler words stunned Lin Cece. You? How did you know? Su Yingxue raised her head, her eyes clear and insightful. Your grandfather didn't live past the age of 40, and your father's health is gradually declining. Based on your family's inheritance, you might die earlier than your grandfather and father did. Chapter 106. General Lin came looking for him. Lin Cece's face turned as white as a freshly painted wall, and she stammered, You. Can you save me? Yes, but the condition is that you must never use the whip again. Su Yingxue tossed Lin Cece's whip to the side. Su Yuro, covered in dirt from being thrown out, wanted to go back in. But when she saw the man holding a sword, she felt a deep sense of fear. Gritting her teeth, she got up and rushed towards the Lin Manor. Great General Lin Outyan had a hot temper and doted on his only daughter. When he heard that Su Yingxue had held Lin Cece hostage in the medical hall, he was infuriated. This is unacceptable. How dare Su Yingxue kidnap my daughter? I'll take her life. Su Yuro shivered slightly. Whenever she saw Lin Aoshan's face turn red in anger, her eyes sparkled. It was just like Lin Cece. She was secretly delighted and said in a soft voice, General Lin, if my sister has offended you in any way, please don't blame the Marquis Manor. After all, she is still young, and her medical skills might not be perfect. If she's not good at medicine, why is she running a clinic? How dare she treat my daughter? If anything happens to Cece under her care, I'll tear down her clinic and skin her alive. Lin Outyan grabbed his 9-ringed saber and stormed toward the clinic. Su Yuro followed him, wearing a triumphant smile. As Lin Outyan entered the clinic, he roared, Su Yingxue, hand over my daughter. His shout frightened many patients, and Manager Qi hurriedly came out to persuade him, General, please calm down. Dr. Su is treating a patient alone. Please wait for a moment. Seeing Lin Aoshan's enraged face, Manager Qi felt a chill down his spine. It was as if he was facing a living deity like Guangong warding off evil spirits on the door. Lin Outyan picked Manager Qi up, his face flushing with anger. Tell Su Yingxue to hand over my daughter, or I'll kill her. General, please calm down, please calm down. Manager Qi's old bones were on the verge of breaking apart. Lin Outyan didn't bother explaining and simply threw him out. Manager Qi felt like he was about to be crushed, but a swift figure caught him. Ziwei placed him gently on the ground, and Manager Qi covered his heart, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, brother. Ziwei nodded. Then Ziwei rushed forward and blocked Lin Outyan, who was about to charge into Su Yingxue's treatment room. Lin Outyan roared, Get out of the way, you brat. Ziwei remained motionless. Lin Outyan grabbed his shoulder, intending to toss him out as he did with Manager Qi. But no matter how much force he used, he couldn't lift Ziwei. Not only was Ziwei not tall, but he also had slender shoulders.